Good afternoon and welcome. And thank you for joining this episode of Breaking the Barriers Women in Tech, brought to you by Dynamic CIO, a Greyhead Media company. I'm Ashwani Mishra, Executive Editor at Dynamic CIO, and I, along with my colleague Smriti Gandhi, Director, Community Engagement and Executive Editor at Greyhead Media, will be jointly hosting this session. Breaking the Barriers Women in Tech is a dedicated series on LinkedIn Live where we converse with women technology leaders in the country who have carved out a space of their own in a male dominant industry. And these women have been working at the forefront of technological innovations, have been part of large projects, and they have been quick in thick of things. However, the fact remains is women continue to be underrepresented in the technology sector. Diversity and inclusion cannot be a part of a one time campaign. This is a cause that requires continuous work and it needs to be developed, maintained, and cultivated through conversations such as this one. With this context and without wasting much time, let me introduce you quickly to our women in tech guests for this episode as they share their journey and insights on how they have been able to break the barriers, overcome the odds, and reach where they are today. Join me to welcome Shweta Jain, APAC Head of Business Development, Media and Entertainment at Amazon Web Services. Shweta has over 2 decades of work experience in leadership roles across media technology and new business initiatives. Welcome, Shweta.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to host you. Our second guest is Apurva Jain, Sales Team Leader, APAC at AI cybersecurity company Darktrace. Earlier, she has been associated with Wipro Infotech, Ultratech Cement, and Ericsson. She has completed her post-graduation from IIM Shillong. Welcome, Apurva.
Thank you, Ashwini, for having me here. And I really look forward to a great session here, learning from Shweta as well. And, looking forward to share my story too.
It's actually a pleasure to have both of you, Shweta and Apurva. Before we deep dive and get to know your journey over the years, can you quickly share what attracted you to the tech industry? How did you decide to carve out a career in tech? Shweta, do you want to answer that first?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. So, first of all, thanks again for having me on the session. And Apurva, I'm looking to learn from you as well. Really exciting space that you are in. So, really looking forward to an interesting conversation here. So, for me, actually, I did not really pick technology. It was kind of a given in our family because my father was a mechanical engineer.
Right.
And, when we were very small, my sister and I think she was 10 and I was 8, 2 years younger to her. We used to be literally like every other weekend, we used to be in his factory because there would be some urgent stuff happening. And so he and his team used to build cranes, those large monster earth moving machines. And so that's I think his way of very subtly introducing technology to us. There were no computers at that time, of course. So I'm subtly disclosing my age here, but yeah, when I was growing up, there were no computers. So I guess that was kind of taken for granted. So all three of us, my sister and my brother and myself, all three of us went into technology and studied computer sciences later because we realized when the time we hit the college that it's not really good um, strategy to start learning how to build cranes. So we decided to move into technology, and that's how I ended up in tech.
Very interesting. So those were the initial years when you were baptized with technology, Shweta, in that manner. Apurva, what has been your story? Did you always know, or how did you opt for a career in technology?
Yeah, so for me also, I think I would say, given the background, so my father, like we are a big family, it's a big Jain family, and then from Rajasthan, and everybody is too much business oriented, But my father became an outlier, I think, around 40 years back, when he said that, no, I want to, kind of do, a job rather than, entering business. So that's where, he ended up becoming a professor, and he, all through his life, he has, been in the education sector. So I think from the very early age, early days, there was a lot of emphasis which was paid on education for both of us, both the daughters. So I mean, I have an elder sister, and I think again, it was, you know, sort of from the beginning that okay, we need to have like two engineers in our family, given that, you know, there was no engineer at that point in time in the whole family. And that's how, you know, I ended up taking BTech, you know, doing computers and communications, ended up with an engineering college. And then I think that is where the journey started. But yes, more or less, I would say, given the fact that it was a sort of, you know, in the family, both parents wanted that, yes, both the daughters have to be engineers, and we ended up becoming one.
Very interesting. And you have carried forward that baton of the outliers, if I may call it so, Apurva. Right. So, let's get down to these initial set of questions. Women have as much potential for leadership, if not more than men. Provided we really select our leaders on the basis of their actual potential, talent, and competence. Being a woman in tech space, what has been your experience in making this journey to where you are today? Anyone, please.
Apurva, you want to go first?
Yeah, maybe I can go about it first. So I would say that, I mean, yes, definitely, you know, technology is a space where females are, underrepresented, I would say. And the way I look at it, you know, Ashwini, it maybe I want to break it into four phases, I would say. And we can put it like a 4E sort of approach, where I say it boils down to education, it boils down to entry, and then, you know, once you've entered, exist. And if you have existed, how can you, you know, excel or exit? I put it into four phases. So I think education, at least most of us, I would say, you know, because even from a lot of statistics which we gather, that yes, it's like out of the new graduates which are coming up, 50% of them are women. So that is still okay, that yes, there are families who are paying attention. But yes, the problem statement is that how many of those are actually taking up the STEM field? Because again, you know, there is some stereotyping over there that, you know, such courses are meant for females, and, you know, how much STEM is, you know, sort of for women. So that is where I see one big challenge, where it's the education itself. Are we getting more representation in the STEM? Second is, even if you have got educated, how sure are we that, you know, we are, kind of entering the workforce? So from that education, turning it into an entry level job. Uh, because I think again, that is where a lot of families don't want, you know, females to work. So it's like, maybe, you know, we are getting married and the other side doesn't want us to work. So that's where that becomes a second barrier. Once you've gotten an entry, I would say the third barrier is, how well are you able to exist? You know, because do you have the right sort of support system over there, so that, you know, you are able to kind of exist well in the ecosystem? And if you are able to exist, and if you're existing well, I think that's where you will excel and you will go into the leadership position. But that requires a lot of, you know, I would say, the kind of support, the ecosystem which has to be there. If not, then I think that's where, you know, the exit point comes into picture, where we see a lot of females, you know, moving out because of whatsoever reasons. Could be maternity, could be family reasons, other obligations, and so on. So that's where I feel, at least for me, I have been lucky in all of those aspects. So I would say I'm still there in the third phase right now, where I'm existing. But I
Right.
think there is a lot more which I need to do in order to make sure that, you know, I excel and not exit.
Right, very well put, Apurva. So now the four E's that you mentioned: education, enter, exist, and excel, and the concerns around the STEM. So opportunities do begin in tech, begin with education, and there is a big disparity between the college degrees earned by men and women. Speaking specifically of science, technology, engineering, and math at the STEM system that you mentioned about. Have there been any
Yeah.
gender biases that you've come across at work, Apurva? Before I go and get to know from Shweta, anything you spoke about the support from the ecosystem, were there issues, challenges that you see or you have come across?
Okay, so let me put it like this, you know, Ashwini, and without naming names, obviously. Yes, I mean, there have been occasions where I really felt that maybe there is some sort of biases which are existing, and I really could not relate to any role model, you know, if I'm part of that organization. And that is where, but the good thing was that, you know, for me, I was able to figure it out quickly, that yes, maybe this is not the right place, for the simple reason that yes, I I do not see that, if I'm sort of, sticking here, that would I be able to make a difference. So definitely there have been instances, and I've come across, roles where I really see that there have been gender biases. But then if you really, kind of, I also want to talk about, because, what I'm experiencing right now is, and I belong to a company where there is, the female representation is just, awesome, I would say. So we have a CEO who is a female, we have a CFO who is a female. I see females working as cyber analysts, cyber engineers, this chief marketing officer, this chief strategy officer who's a female. So I mean, definitely, that is something which you really look forward to. And I think that calls also for that, yes, you have certain role models to look up to, and that's what I think motivates me particularly.
Right, right. Yes, Shweta.
No, so of course, I mean, agree with what Apurva shared, and especially I loved her theory of 4 E's. And yeah, she's absolutely right. There are so many women who enter the workforce, and since I have a lot of experience in this field now, 23 years of work experience, I have seen so many talented girls coming and joining my team, and then at some point deciding to either opt for a part-time job or a typical 9 to 5 job, that helps them maintain that work-life balance and look after their families. So I would say that yes, that is in fact, so entry level is not such a big challenge, at least in our country. I mean, you'll find so many households where like the daughters are doing engineering and studying STEM field, right? So that's not really the issue. The issue is to stay there and rise up the corporate ladder, so to speak, right? And this is where I feel that I was very, very fortunate to start. So when I left college, I straight away I joined a company where I had so many role models right from the get-go. They had a culture where there was absolutely, forget about the bias, even the word gender was not even mentioned. We all did same kind of shitty night shifts, going home at 3
Right.
a.m. for morning shifts, coming in at 4 a.m. I remember a couple of times when I even brought my toothbrush to the office because we were all working on elections. So it was like, it didn't even cross our mind that we are women and we can't do this, right? So it really, I think it's only after many, many years that I started hearing these stories and I became conscious of it, that yes, this is a big barrier. So it was actually something that's, I think, awareness that came much later for me. And if I may just call out the fact that our society is really over indexed on some of the qualities that we expect to see in our leaders, more masculine qualities like aggression and a huge display of confidence. And because of those, I think stereotypes, it's we are seeing not many women raising their hand for bigger roles and saying that they're ready for promotion. So there have been so many studies around, that women don't apply for jobs thinking that they do not meet 100% of the criteria. Similarly, if within an organization, we don't raise our hand for a promotion till we think we are 120% ready,
Sure.
right? So typically a man, I'm not saying that applies to everyone, of course, I'm not generalizing, but a lot of men would go ahead and raise their hand for a promotion even if they think they're 60% ready, and they'll be like, it's okay, we learn it on the job. And that should be the right approach. That is the right approach, because there is a lot that can be learned on the job. So when I really see a lot of these challenges pretty much on a regular basis, I would say I really feel that, yeah, we need to have more of these discussions. And I'm so glad that we're having these discussions now, to Apurva's point, that it's so important to have some role models and some stories to be told that are encouraging,
Yeah.
women to speak up and sometimes speak first, not wait for others to ask them that whether they are ready, whether they would like to try for an opportunity, but be more proactive, basically in advocating for themselves.
Right, right. Very well put. And some of the points are really important that way, Shweta. One question before I hand it over to Smriti as well. No, have you ever felt that you had to strive more than men to be extra, to prove yourself to a greater degree? Maybe X times harder than just for people to take you seriously.
Okay, I would say it's not really directly related to uh, the workplace. It's more around because I'm a person, right? I'm not just a professional. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter-in-law, a daughter, a sister, right? And I want to be I want to be a one whole person who brings best and does best at every front, right? And which is why I think we tend to take a lot more burden on ourselves. Like I'm talking about mostly working mothers
Right.
who are always, striving to be the best mothers and always feeling guilty every time they miss their parent-teacher meeting or not there when their child is sick. I have been in those situations like tons of times. I can't even count them, right? There've been so many times when I was on the verge of quitting. Both my daughters when they were young, both of them got typhoid, one of them got jaundice. They've been, I remember I was in a conference in Europe and I got a call from my mom that both the girls are down with dengue in the hospital. And I was like, struggling to find a flight back home. So, of course, I'm not saying that this doesn't happen to working fathers. Of course, it does. And they also go through a lot of pain. It's just that for us, it happens almost on a weekly basis, if not
Right.
daily.
Right.
You know,
Yes.
so that those are I think, some of the limitations. But you know what? If I may just go ahead and say this, I have made a lot of choices, and I feel that every single woman has the authority and the power to make a choice in that moment that what she wants to prioritize and be firm about it and be confident about it because you don't want to live with regrets. So many
Absolutely.
times especially in my early career when my children were very young, I made a lot of choices that were not my pro career choices, that were more of, that I want to be a good mom, I want to be there with my child. So I held on to my ambitions. I focused more on studying things that I could do along with my children, So I made those adjustments and it all worked fine in the end. Of course, I'm very fortunate, like Apurva, that I also have a support system. My mother-in-law is such a rock. Like when I moved to Singapore, she moved with me because I was signing up for a job that requires me to travel 2 weeks every month, pre-COVID times, of course. I miss that. But yeah, I signed up for it with confidence because she was coming along. She said, "Don't you worry." Because even my husband got an opportunity which was much bigger. Even he needed to travel. I mean, everybody who lives in Singapore and does a regional role has to travel a lot. So yeah, my in-laws, they were like super supportive, and I'm so grateful. It's all, you build that tribe of supporters along the way,
Along the
at
way. True.
work, at
Yes.
home. You work through your relationships. So sorry, I mixed up a lot of things.
No, I think another points were well related, Shweta. Apurva, quickly, would you want to answer that as well?
So maybe, I would rather top it up with another story of mine. And again, because there is something unique, I would say, at least this part, maybe that, yes, we have we are kind of parents who pay a good emphasis on education, and then you get into a job, and then, it's you got married, things are going on well. That might happen to a lot of us. But maybe what I want to share today is the second phase, I would say. So what happened, after I got married, maybe. So yes, that was the time, I was working. My first job was with Ericsson, so I was working over there. And then at that point in time, my husband got an opportunity to move to Singapore. So, they were coming up with a new office, and that's where the plan was that, okay, he will go there initially, kind of settle down, and then I will sort of, move along with him. So then, he went, and I also kind of went there. I was trying to search for some role which would fit in, but unfortunately couldn't find one. So then I had two options. One was that I quit and move along with him in Singapore, and then just let it be. The other option was, maybe why not utilize this opportunity and kind of live the dream which I always wanted to, that go for an MBA. And I
Right.
think that's where I thought, let's stick to the second choice, because I think that is then where I will have no regret, right? Like Shweta was mentioning. So I started preparing for my CAT. That was in April, and then it was around 3 to 4 months that I had for my preparation. And that time, yes, I was working with Ericsson on a full-time role. So I would use weekends and over the weekdays, whatever commute time was there, that I would utilize to sort of prepare. So then October gave CAT, and then finally, I cleared my interviews and everything, and got into I'm Shillong. But now comes the twist. So what happens is, my husband comes back because for somehow he was not finding it. He was not able to kind of settle, and he just thought maybe it's better that he moves back to India. So now is the
Right.
situation that, what do I do? That's a choice. And believe me, I was actually confused. And at that point in time, I would say nobody was supporting. In fact, even parents were of the view that, why do you want to put your, because ultimately long distance means, yes, marriage does come at stake, right? So
True.
there is a
Yes.
stake which is there. So I was confused, but that then there was a call which which came in from my sister, and I think that changed everything, and I was totally clear what I wanted to do. So she told me just one thing, that, look, Apurva, it's okay, whatever you decide. But then, 5, 10, 15 years down the lane, don't then ever think that, had I taken, yaar, us waqt kar liya hota, then, it would have been at least, and then don't even blame others for it. And
Right.
if you're okay, if you think you can do that, well, otherwise, it's up to you. And I was clear then what I wanted to do. And I think then we ganged up. She convinced my parents. I was able to convince my husband. And finally, I graduated from IIM Shillong. So I think that's a story
Very
which I
interesting.
wanted to share because I think that is all it boils down to, that you have to, at certain point in time, you'll have to move out of your comfort zone and, take certain chances.
Right. Smriti, you can please take this over from me.
Thank you. I know one thing which I found common between what both of you said. Don't have regret in whatever you choose. Whatever you choose, it's your choice, obviously. Whether you tilt your whatever, tilt towards a little towards the family or work or whatever. But please do not regret whatever choice you make. So you all have been sharing your experiences, and I want to ask you one very important question. Could you share any one experience with me where you think a unique experience where you think you were the bravest? Shweta, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. It's in fact a story that um, I don't talk about it that often anymore, but at least till 5 years ago, it used to come up so much that it literally, like, I was so tired of it. So basically, when I got married, my husband had a business in a town near Delhi that was 75 kilometers from GK, where my office was in Delhi, right? And of course, I mean, he was doing well in his business, and I had the choice to either join his business or try and find something in that little town. But no, I used to love what I did, and I just decided that I'm going to continue. So I started commuting, right? During that time, it used to take me roughly about 2.5 hours one way. And around Diwali or any basically festive season or any other thing like rallies and stuff, I would get stuck on the roads, sometimes spending like back and forth total about 6 to 7 hours. So I also, of course, I mean, it had impact on my health as well at some point, but I did not give up. And I was so clear that I have to keep working. I have to keep at it. Right. Of course, there were some difficult choices that we had to make when I conceived my first child about 4 years after we got married. I used to spend more time at my mom. So I kept adjusting, but I thought that, okay, maybe this is the last year, then we are going to move to Delhi, closer to my workplace. It didn't, it just couldn't happen for 11 years. And during that time, I had two daughters. So I was pregnant, I was still commuting. I had my babies after, my maternity leave. I returned to work, when the babies were like 5 to 6 months old, and it was really hard, weaning them off and the entire schedule. And of course, when the babies are little, they fall sick a lot, and there were always something or the other, vaccinations, and then them catching a fever after vaccine, and this and that. So many things to be managed, plus these 5 to 6 hours of travel every single day, right? So I mean, of course, I came very close to that point of quitting many times during that time, but I just did not give up, and I was amazed at myself. And in fact, this is a story that even the chairman of our company shared at a board meeting, and I got to know about it later. That we have our head of software development who does this. She travels 75 kilometers one way because she's so passionate, right? So, and of course, I mean, it tells a lot about the company's culture also, that I loved it so much. I used to work with NDTV. Sorry if I didn't mention that. And it is a place where I think a lot of us who joined just stayed on and loved being there. It was like our second home. And of course, a place where we learned so much from the best in the industry, right? So that, I feel, that is a story where I kind of surprised myself that how tenacious I could be. And my parents and everybody, of course, I mean, from time to time they would have a chat with me that why don't you take a break, why don't you take a sabbatical? But I just did not do it. So that's something I'm really proud of, and I think I was really brave, especially being a mother of two very young children, and managing all that. And at the end of it, I have absolutely zero regrets. And of course, not every single decision that I made was right. Many times, but you have to take the ownership, right? Because you made that choice. Nobody asked me to do this ever, like including my husband. He always offered that, why don't you join me as a partner, or we'll figure out something, we'll do something. But I made that choice, and there were some times when but I will not call it a regret. My decisions may not be right for whatever reason, but I owned them. I made a choice, and I think that's something I really cherish that time now when I think back.
Thank you so much for pouring your heart out. And I think I should have rephrased the question. Tell me one incident which will inspire a lot of people who are hearing this. So, because this was a very inspiring experience. Not, I would, experience is the wrong word actually. A story that you shared, which is coming out purely from heart, and the troubles that you went through. And yes, it is a very brave moment when you have to choose between a mother and your position, business position. And I'm sure Apurva is empathizing with you right now, because she has a 2-year-old daughter and she's going through all of it right now. So Apurva, over to you. So I want to your experience, one of where you were the bravest.
Yeah, before Apurva says that, Apurva, it's all going to work out so well, and your daughter is going to be so proud of you. My daughters are now 17 and 14, and I can tell you, they are like so full of pride when they talk about me, and the way they deal with me. Like, we are literally like friends who are all proud of each other, because they have also grown into such independent young women. It's incredible. I mean, I have absolutely no idea what's going on in their school. They manage everything on their own. They just tell me what's, the high level, basically the executive summary of what's going on in their school.
Yeah.
5-minute elevator pitch that, okay, mom, this happened this week, this happened next week, I'm going for a camp, I have a basketball match after 2 weeks, I need this, I need to order this, can I get your credit card? I mean, but believe me, I mean, it all works out so well. so well.
Totally, Shweta. And I think I do relate to it because, for me, I think Ashwini, we were also discussing it in the beginning when I started that, yes, my father was an outlier and then I am also an outlier. And I'll tell you, reasons for this, which also sort of answers this question. So I got married pretty early, 23, 24 was the age when I got married. So one of the, things which I've just shared, in fact, was about doing this whole MBA 2-year residential program, after the marriage. So that was one thing. Now that happened, after that, okay, I've finished my MBA, then I've gotten another job. And that's where the pressure comes in, right? That you need to plan your family. So society will always be kind of, trying to push you, and there would be, all sort of things which will be coming up. Like, there are these relatives who are telling you this, and people, it's like, people are pressurizing you that it's the right time to have kids. Don't delay it any further. So it was like almost after 8 years of my marriage, I planned the first kid. Now, again, the point what I want to make over here is that you will have to defy the norms. I mean, there will be people who are trying to, say things to you, but ultimately it's the choices which you have to make. I know as a person, I know as a working professional, what is it, how is it that I want to plan my career. So, that is where, I have just kind of paid no heed to whatever advice, whatever suggestions which were pouring in, whatever pressure which was pouring in from everywhere. And I would say my parents were also one among those, because obviously for them also, it's like relatives were always telling that, it's been so many years of marriage, and why not, kind of extending the family and so on. And there would be all weird suggestions which would be coming in. So yes, that is one thing which I definitely want to share, because yes, I think this happens again with a lot of working females, that there would be a pressure that, you need to plan your family, you need to do things in a certain way. But it's important that you decide what you want for yourself. And I think again, it has worked out pretty well for me now. I am happy that I'm at this level now, that, I have been able to manage well, not just, the career progression which I wanted for myself, but also, I'm getting enough time to spend with my 2-year-old kid.
Great, this is so much positivity oozing out from, both your experience. Jala sharing his experience very already. But the kind of positivity which, is oozing out, I mean, hats off to you. Over to you, Ashwini.
Very interesting to hear both of them, Smriti. So what I could understand is, again, the secret recipe for success, is your own creation, self-manufactured, and for your consumption only. The circumstances in your lives are uniquely different from everyone else, and there is no one size fit for all formula. So really nice to learn, and as you have shared your stories. Again, one question to both of you. You've gone through the challenges or the grind yourselves, and you understand the hardships that are faced by others. However, there are some times when someone could get disillusioned by circumstances, or sidetracked over the course of their struggles. What would be your advice to help such women reshape their approach and get a sense of direction?
Uh, so maybe I can start, and then
Sure.
Shweta can also add. So I would say yes, this is a situation which I'm sure many of us, would be kind of going through. But then I think what is important is, I would say again, it's not like a one approach which fits all, and it will boil down to, every individual.
Right.
But I think what is important is, first, yes, we as a society, we need to provide the right sort of support system. Because yes, if there are females, say, who are, for example, who are going for a maternity break, and then they are trying to, return back to workforce, that's where, there have to be appropriate rules which have to be created, so that support system has to be there. Second, I think it becomes very important that, you have people whom you can really talk to, and that's where I think a mentor role comes into picture. So if you have the sort of, right mentors, and it happens with me also, very often, Ashwini, that there are challenges which I feel maybe, I really cannot solve it single handedly, and I definitely need, people to help me out with that. And that is where I think mentors can play a very, very important role. But then it's also, again, it depends upon, how you're finding the right mentor. That becomes important. So for me, again, I've been fortunate enough, as far as the mentor thing is concerned, that I have got good mentors, not just in industry, but then, in family, whom I can openly discuss about a lot of things and, get the right suggestion. So I would say those are the two things. And maybe one last thing is, again, it's important that, for females, uh, we are still continuing, to do the right things, which means there are some things which are required, like, yes, you constantly need to upskill yourself. That definitely would be required for any role. So I think everybody should be working towards that thing also. And yes, I mean, have the trust, have confidence, talk to people around, and I'm sure there is a lot of support system which is available, which everybody can leverage on. Maybe
Right.
Shweta, over to you.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
Shweta.
you mentioned, of course, all the three key things: mentors. I've read so many studies. In fact, just one that I was reading last week was that there was a study that was done specifically in media entertainment with women working in media entertainment, and that clearly showed the data that women who had mentors were 5 times more likely to be promoted as compared to those who did not. So definitely, and you're right, choosing mentors is also a very important exercise. They don't look need to look the same as you. They don't need to have the same journey as you. They don't need to be in the same field as you. In fact, it's good to have diverse perspectives, completely different field as well, sometimes. So even though you may be, of course, pursuing a certain genre of studies, or you are in a particular sector, if you are in healthcare, you would typically look for somebody who's done it very well and has been successful in healthcare. But at the same time, I think it's good to have a diversity. So that's on mentor. And second, upskilling. I want to share something that I do personally. So very early on in my life, in fact, to be specific, I remember I was 27 years old and pregnant with my first child, and things were not easy. I was commuting, of course, long distances, plus a lot of other things going on. So I decided, of course, it was a realization, but eventually I gave words to it, and I actually wrote it all down, and I decided that I'm going to be my only competition, right? I'm not going to keep comparing myself to others, because everybody's circumstances are unique. So that day I decided, and I continue to stick to it. I always block my calendar for at least an hour, sometimes 2 hours if it's a good week and I have time, to learn something entirely new, or just go one level deeper into what I'm already, talking about. Like, for example, like if I'm right now researching the 5G impact on media entertainment industry, how you can use 5G to do live production. Maybe I'm going to read some white papers, some recent experiments that have been done, what were the success rate and what are the challenges and things like that. Basically, be specific. So here in Amazon, we talk a lot about that intentions are good, but you need to really have action attached to it, right? So good intentions are not enough. So have a plan, what you're going to do about it. So this is what I do. I block my calendar and I actually do this, that even if I have to skip something fun, more fun, or something which is related to, networking or whatever, I'll give that up. I will focus. I will make sure that every week I have something that I learned new. And the second thing, very important, Purva talked about, how you grow your tribe of supporters, you build your ecosystem of supporters. There also, once again, good intentions are not enough. I make intentional efforts to connect with people who may not have a similar experience, who can have completely different skills and even different viewpoints. Sometimes I read something on LinkedIn and somebody talking about something, and I'm very intrigued that why would this person think like that? Because this seems quite weird. I mean, it's definitely not in line with the trends that we're seeing, right? And I would try to reach out and have a conversation. I mean, in earlier times you could meet for coffee, but now it's mostly Zoom meetings. But yeah, I mean, make intentional efforts to reach out to people because you don't want to be the smartest person in the room every single time.
True.
You
Yes.
need to challenge yourself. You need to like we a lot of people use that phrase echo chambers, right, where we are only trying to just confirm our own beliefs. So we need to disconfirm our beliefs more than confirm our beliefs. Because right now we are in an age of the internet where there is so much information available, and all the machine learning algos are trying to just help us confirm our beliefs. So we cannot depend on the internet. We have to reach out and have conversations with people to
People.
disconfirm our belief.
Right, right. Very well put. So if good mentors, role models, keep yourself refreshed, with new skills and a book read. I'm sure both of you would be doing that. Smriti,
So echoing what Ashwini said, I totally am with you on how you need to challenge yourselves up the ladder and also personally. So, adding to what you all said, I want to ask you more on this. What do you do to create a strong personal brand and self-image? It's very necessary to go up the ladder. We start with you, Apurva.
Sure. So I think, Smriti, I think for a strong personal brand, come to sessions like this. That would be the first thing. Yeah. So okay. So jokes apart, yes, I think it's again knowledge speaks for itself. I would say that. So one thing definitely is that. And it will boil down to again the point which I touched upon. So it's important that you keep yourself relevant. It's important that it's not just intentions like what Shweta said, but it's also actions attached to it. And then yes, having the right sort of network connections, that becomes important as well. Because say if I talk about, say, the industry which I am in, so maybe security industry, again, it's a closed net industry, it's a closed it's a small industry, I would say. And but then the more you are kind of interacting with people, the more you are engaging with people, that's where you will be relevant, basically. And again, it boils down to that whatever you're talking, are you really talking sense? And that is where again it comes back to the same thing, that yes, you're constantly upskilling yourself, you're keeping yourself relevant, what's going on around, and then you are kind of leveraging it. So I think that would be maybe two or three things, that yes, keep upskilling yourself, grow the connections, and know your stuff, basically. Maybe one more thing which I want to add over here is, again, because when it comes to having those plans, ambitions, I think a lot of us have it. So everybody have certain goals, and a lot of us do goal setting, but how much of that goal setting is actually translating into actions? I think that is where the problem lies. And I was just reading this quote, from Elon Musk as well. And I think it's very relevant. So it is like, if you are giving, say, 30 days to clean your house, it will take you that much time. But if you take 3 hours, it will take that. You'll finish it up, in 3 hours. And the same thing applies to your goals, plans, as well as actions. So I think that's pretty much it. That you need to have plans and goals, but along with that, you need to have the right execution. And when I'm saying right execution, it means the correct steps, what to do, plus keep it time constrained. So it's not like I want to do this, but maybe I'll do it in the next 5 years or so. So that is I think it's important.
You know what Shweta said, and then you added to it. One, you need to have a goal. Second, you have to have the will to implement it. And
Yeah.
third, you have to implement it in the right way, in the right
Exactly.
time frame, and that's when it will happen. So coming to you, Shweta,
Yeah.
or both of you are into, say, business development and sales, and you all understand the
Hmm.
thing of brand more than anybody else. So what do you do for building a strong personal brand?
So I also want to share an interesting phrase that I read recently. Actually, I heard it on a podcast, I think, and I don't know who to attribute it to because I don't remember. But the phrase kind of stuck with me, and it said, "Blow your own trumpet, women." So basically, just like we are all Indians, and we come from a culture where talking about our accomplishments and is almost like bragging. right? I achieved this, achieved that. It is perceived as bragging, and it's not a good thing. And especially like when we were growing up, our parents always told us. And in my household, I mean, I have to say, because we were two sisters, one brother, all three of us were given those values alike, not like that you are a girl, so you can't brag, but all three of us were given those values that. But as I grew and also kind of, started moving around and meeting people from other cultures, I realized this, after all, it's not such a bad thing. You have to find a balance, how to do this, how to blow your trumpet without actually blowing it, right? I'll tell you how I try to do it. What I try to do it is, I take the focus of me, of myself, and I put the focus on the work that I have done. So I am very, very active on LinkedIn. This is something I started only after, the whole COVID thing and travel stopped. So I had a lot more time to do these things. Otherwise, I was always, checking flight status and calling cabs and those kind of things, because I was traveling so much and never had the time. But in the last couple of years, yeah, I think I've done a pretty okay kind of job to start blowing my trumpet on LinkedIn without actually blowing it, and using the work to do that, talking about the impact that you're making, talking about your point of view. That's extremely important. And Apurva touched upon it, that how you need to know your stuff. And when you know your stuff, you also need to take some sort of stand, especially on things that are still evolving, and there are such diverse viewpoints. You need to develop your point of view and be able to articulate it, and do it in a way that is authentic and that is also humble. Be respectful of different viewpoints and other people's opinions. And if somebody is trying to question you on a public platform, I think you need to develop that ability how to handle that. And it comes with experience, of course. I mean, there is no rule book, there's no training that you can do this 10-hour training with MIT online and learn how to handle objections. So the key is to stay authentic. It's just also the easier thing to do, I think, more sustainable, that you can do year after year. Focus on your one thing, sorry, I forgot to mention, this is on the public platform, but internally something that in fact is something a part of Amazon culture, and I want to share it widely with everyone, because it has helped me a lot and helped a lot of my colleagues as well, which is that we are encouraged to maintain a body of our work, right? Which includes our the business outcomes we were able to drive, put some data in, be specific. What was my contribution in making this deal happen? Or if I ran a media symposium in Korea or in India, what was the outcome? How many CXOs attended? What was the feedback? Did you capture CSAT score, the customer satisfaction score? What was that? Keep a log of all that, and we update it on a regular basis. And when the time comes, when there is an opportunity to put your hand up for a promotion or just apply for a new role, inside or outside your company, this is the time that your body of work will come so handy, right? And also in internal meetings, sometimes in reviews, if you have those data points, something where you're very specific, that what did you do, what really was the impact of your effort, that really helps a lot. So both internally within the organization, and also when you are back in the job market, it helps a lot.
Thanks, Shweta. I think right now, both of your point of views and your experiences are inspiring a lot of women who are hearing and who will hear later as well. Before I hand it over to Ashwini, Apurva, there's a question on you. Mostly we witness that women, particularly in sales role, get many unsolicited advices to change fields, get fewer promotion opportunities, and get lower salary than male counterparts. so many negative stereotypes. Did you face any of this, and how did you?
I would say specifically for me, I remember, one of the incidences maybe I can just share, and that is again something which also sort of became a driving thing for me, that maybe I need to prove this point wrong. So in fact, I think it was one of the events with the dynamic CISO only, and it was a physical event. And yes, there were a lot of people from the industry out there, and then we were just kind of interacting. So that was, I think, maybe I was just 2 years into the role, and yes, obviously it was pretty early part of my career. So at that point in time, there was this gentleman. We were nicely chit chatting, and then this was exactly the same question which was asked. That typically happens that we will not see women in the sales role. They might quit. Like it's not really a very long journey which is there. So even are you also going to do the same thing, or are you planning to stick around? And I think that was something which has stayed with me till now. And somehow there is this inner thing that no, I want to prove that thing wrong. And no matter whatever challenges are coming, I think challenges there in every role. It's not just if you are in a sales profile or if you are in an XYZ profile. There would be challenges which will be everywhere, but ultimately it all boils down to what you have decided. And I simply believe in one thing, which is also, by the way, my WhatsApp status for I think many years now, that be the heroine of your own story and not the victim. So I think that's important. So yes, there have been challenges which have come, but it all boils down to how much keen you are to solve those challenges and just go ahead, because ultimately it's your life, it's your choice. You have to make the best out of it.
Such an inspiring conversation that we are having. I can't tell you, being a woman on the other side, on the other side, I myself am having so many key takeaways and so much inspiration. Thank you so much for both. Over to you, Ashwin.
Absolutely, Smriti. And I am getting to learn a lot, so trust me on that. And I really mean it. Right. A final question. I guess we are reaching the cutoff time. A final question to both of you. And what advice would you pass on to other women to help them progress in the industry, specifically technology?
Maybe Shweta, will start with you first.
Yeah, I'm just thinking. I've already, shared a lot of things. I think one aspect that I have kind of, I would say, grown to really realize and accept is that we, especially as we try, we have reached a level of career where we have aspirations which are much bigger, because that's the only way, right? I mean, you have to aim big first. I mean, that's how it always starts. That's the first step, right? Aim big. We don't have to necessarily behave like men, so that's one thing that I used to have these kind of notions earlier in my life, and in the last I would say a year and a half, 2 years, I have realized that there is absolutely no need to. And I'm so glad that we've had so many conversations in the last couple of years. I don't think the amount of webinars and discussions that have happened on what being a true leader means in the last 18 months or 20 months. At least I haven't had such conversations before, and heard so many conversations around that how it's important it is to have to be and to have empathy, to have passion, to be able to basically to have a backbone and still function with your heart, right? Have a backbone and a heart that at the same time, right? So my advice, I think I've already shared a lot of things around, how we need to block our calendars, be intentional about learning new things, reach out to people, grow your tribe of supporters, find mentors from diverse experiences. There's so many things we talked about. The only one thing that I would say that perhaps we did not touch upon is that you can continue being you. You don't have to change yourself. Stay authentic. And this is something that has worked for a lot of women leaders. I don't know how many of you have had a chance to listen to Indra Nooyi. after she released her book, she's done a few podcasts and interviews. In fact, two of my favorite people were in the same frame. I was excited when Dr. Roy, my ex-boss, Pranoy Roy, interviewed Indra Nooyi when her book was released. And I think she really is a very good example that how you can continue to stay simple. You can stay like a simple person, an authentic person, and still rise to the top job, right? So that is something which I believe is a very, very important thing for women, that they don't have to change themselves. Another one thing that I maybe want to add is that we need to focus on our strengths. Don't worry too much about what you don't have today or what you're not good at. Focus on your strengths, play from your strengths. Of course, continue to challenge your negative thoughts, and you need to sometimes find the cheerleaders. Like every time I am going up on stage, I mean, these days it's not stage, it's my study, but if it's a really big talk, I always make sure I speak to my mom an hour before the event. If it's too early in India, then the night before, I give her a call and I speak to her because she's my biggest cheerleader, right? So have that strategy to kind of navigate things that you're still working on. In fact, if I may just take 1 minute to talk about something that I read just a week ago. There's this professor in one of the colleges in the US, I believe it was Stanford, who has this theory, how she talks about the growth mindset. So growth mindset is that how whenever you talk about things that you do not know, just add one word at the end of the sentence. So when you say, oh, I do not know this, I do not know how to know this, how to do this, and just add one word, yet. So I don't understand this yet.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. It is the growth mindset that this is work in progress, right? It's a world that's changing. There's so much information out there. There will always be so much that we do not know. Just attach one word to it, yet, and work on it.
Right. Yes, Apurva.
So I think very well put, Shweta. So in fact, maybe even I would want to summarize it with, yes, just be yourself, live your dreams, take chances, have no regrets. And maybe one thing which I want to definitely, add here, and it's maybe, it's a message or it's a request for maybe those females who are in the leadership position. So maybe it's a request to them. So for us also, we need to kind of provide the support system or the ecosystem to those aspiring females, maybe who are trying to enter, who are trying to resume. Because it happened, and I want to share this story while I end it also, that it happened with my sister, with my elder sister. So after she had a first child, she had to kind of take a break. It was a break of almost 3 years. And when she was trying to join back the workforce, it was a bit of a struggle for her. I would say, at least 8 to 9 months went into that, where she was again trying to get back and things like that. A lot of interviews, but I think somehow because of that break, it's also a little bit, somehow it impacts your trust. It impacts your confidence, somehow, and it's not so much about skill. But that is where her previous manager, she also happened to be a female, and that's where again that those dots connected, and she was back into the workforce. And I think she's doing pretty well over the last 5 to 6 years again, now that she's back. So I think that is one message which maybe I want to leave with, that yes, while we are trying to discuss about what aspiring women leaders should be looking at, but it's also important that as women leaders, these are some things maybe which we should be doing. It's like doing our bit for the industry, for the
Yeah,
female.
there's a phrase
Absolutely.
for it. It's called send the elevator down.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. I got it. I
Yeah.
got it now.
So all of us who are, in some position of power, whatever, if we can have an impact, we've reached a certain level, we must send the elevator down for others.
Yes, absolutely, Shweta. And that's one of the reasons that we are hosting such sessions here, So
Yeah,
that's
thank you
the
for
whole
that.
Right. I'll quickly wind up. So there are quite a few learnings that we are all taking from here, So a few things that you've mentioned repetitively in your conversations was make your choice, stand by it, Have no regrets. Challenge yourself, keep learning, stay authentic, be visible. And as Shweta put it, it is necessary to blow your trumpet at times. Yes. Right. Shweta, Apurva, thank you so much for taking out time. We stand immensely inspired through this conversation with both of you. I'm sure our viewers find the same. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks. And have a great day, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you. Yes.
Bye.